Welcome to Extremely Live. I am Micah Rock and Roll, and today I am here with cartoonist Meesimo. Meesimo, thank you so much for joining me.
Hey, thanks for having me, man.
Absolutely. So I know a handful of your friends, and they kept saying, you got to talk to Meesimo. You got to talk to Chris. And I'm like, all right. He comes highly recommended, and I watched you produced a video with Kelly Light talking about your cartoonist class, or cartooning class, excuse me.
Yeah.
And you kind of went over your influences and like what you're into, and gave me a little taste of your background, but we'll get into that a little more. How's that sound?
Sounds great. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, we shot that intro. It was maybe 5 minutes or something. We shot a good 15 hours of footage, and then found a really tight 5 minutes we could use. So.
Who did it fall on to edit as a video editor? I'm curious.
I somehow had immediate travel plans, so she got to edit.
Oh, no.
But she did a heck of a job.
Yeah, 15 hours.
We kind of redid the same bit multiple times until it was as clean as we could get it. But
yeah,
anytime the two of us start talking about cartooning or comics, we'll just tangent out, and it'll last 15 hours just because of how deep, we're diving into random cartooning. We both go back to the Smithsonian books. Like, I was basically, my first real memory of getting into comics was the Smithsonian book of comic book comics, and on her side it was the newspaper comics one.
Yeah,
so both two classics.
I mentioned to Kelly that those are very influential books. I've seen multiple. Oh wow, that's a legit. I didn't realize it was like thick like that. That's good.
Like a dictionary. It's like
totally
really classic.
Is it? What is the audience for that book? Is it for children, or is it like just a general knowledge, like anyone who's interested?
It's funny because it's kind of both. Like, it was perfect for me as a kid. Like, I'm an only child, so my parents would take me out to dinner at friends' places and stick me in the corner by the bookshelf. And I'd pull this out as like 8 or 10-year-old kid and just skip over all the academic essays.
There you go.
Read, Plastic Man, or there's some great Carl Barks Duck comics in here.
Nice. Huge really inspiration for me, Carl Barks Duck comics.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they're amazing.
Walt Kelly, Pogo. So
I need to get into Pogo. I mean, obviously I know Pogo, but I've not really dove into it. And a lot of people drop Pogo as big inspiration.
Great, yeah. Bone would not be what it is without Pogo.
I do love Bone. I do. I'm a big Bone guy too. My grandfather was the one who introduced me to a lot of this stuff. He was a big comic guy.
Cool.
Yeah, so he introduced me to Carl Barks. He introduced me to Bone. He introduced me to Little Nemo and Slumberland, and then obviously the Marvel stuff.
You got a Little Nemo page.
Right nice. Yeah, I bought one of my first big comic book purchases was that giant Tarzan, every Little Nemo. I think it's like maybe 2/3 newspaper original scale. It's pretty big.
Yeah.
But just the art in that is like unbelievably good. Could you imagine being that good of a draftsman? Like buildings, people, animals, everything is like top notch. It's insane. Yeah. Apparently he would go into the printers and have special instructions for color even. Like he was real down to the nitty gritty about it, which is kind of cool to me.
That's so cool. Yeah. Being in it, every level of the process like that.
Yeah.
He really knew the ins and outs of it. Yeah.
Totally. His grave is in Bushwick, Brooklyn. And I went to it. It's not like it's just there, it's not like singled out or special or anything, but it's really strange. It was right behind my apartment a few years ago. I'm like, he's buried there. And I went, and sure enough, Winsor McKay. Took a picture, hung out for a minute, paid my respects to the genius. But yeah, that's cool. I love that there's this book out there that has such like far-reaching influence on cartoonists. Does it have like full stories in there, like full reprints?
Yeah, so
That's
it's got
cool.
like a full duck story. It's got a lot of short stories, but
Right.
like it has the very first Batman story, the very first Superman story, an entire Plastic Man story,
That's awesome.
some classic like Wildwood Mad stuff,
Yeah.
some like Kurtzman Mad stuff, but also some Kurtzman war stories. So it's such a great, perfect encapsulation of all like a certain era of comics.
Yeah, that is awesome. I didn't realize it was like a prime, like a full. You get the full entree, not just like panels and like then essays about the panels, which is a
Yeah,
lot of
yeah,
those comic books. That are comic book books. That's awesome.
it's
Um,
good. Yeah, kind of
so
perfect like desert island kind of book. It's like you can only take one book, but
yeah,
it contains 40 books in it, so it's like a good hack.
yeah, for sure. That's sick. So this had this profound effect on you as a lad, and I assume you're like most comics and cartoonist types. You were drawing all the time, and I'm sure pulling reference from that.
Yeah, totally. I would Star Wars was big, so I remember early on in grade school getting in trouble. Like you remember the old Scantron tests? Like you fill out the little dots, they feed it through the machine. I got in trouble for drawing like Boba Fett on the back of one because it would screw up the machine if you fed it in with Boba Fett on it. I had to retake the test because I finished early, but I was drawing and doodling Boba Fett and Darth Vader. So,
That's hilarious. Oh man, good old Scantrons. I haven't seen one of those in a little bit.
yeah,
Um,
thankfully.
yeah. Which Star Wars were you? How were you taking it in? Like on VHS tapes as a
VHS.
kid?
I was old enough, like as a kid, my parents would take me to the drive-in.
Oh,
I
okay,
remember
cool.
seeing Empire Strikes Back at the drive-in
That's awesome.
and wearing a shirt that was like 5 sizes too big. Some cool Star Wars shirt that a relative gave me. Like didn't fit, but I was gonna wear it because damn it, it was Star Wars.
That's great. I've missed a lot of the new stuff. I've heard Andor is super good.
Man, Andor kind of ruins the rest of them because like I was getting into Mandalorian and some of the other ones, and then Andor comes out and it just blows everything away. It's so tight and well written and like
Yeah,
so well edited. I think you would appreciate the editing. Like the storytelling is amazing. So then watching anything after that, it's like this just doesn't hold up. Like,
yeah. Well, I mean, at least you got that. That's a good problem to have, Like a
yeah,
lot
there's one
of
really good.
yeah. It's like there's a lot of material out there, so it's
Yeah,
like it's nice when one thing is like super good. Um, let's oops, sorry. Um, so walk me through pulling these influences, having fun drawing. Walk me through where you start to have those thoughts of like, can I make a living doing this? Is this like a real job or is this a hobby? Like, tell me a little bit about that kind of thought process. When did that start happening?
at some point in high school, I got the idea that I didn't need college. I would just make my own comics and sell them, and then I would just travel around, be an artist, and sure,
Entrepreneurial spirit,
make the
baby.
thing. Yeah, yeah. But of course, that's easier said than done. But I was making and xeroxing zines in high
Oh,
school and
cool.
selling comics to my classmates. Like I sold enough, you know, Kinko's copied comics to like pay for new comics, to pay for new printings, to pay for junior prom. Like so I was selling my Quest for Rain, which eventually now I resuscitated recently as Turbo Hawk. So it's kind of a redux continuation of my old high school comics that were totally right out of like that era, like huge Frank Miller ripoffs, huge early Image comics ripoff, like The Crow. Like he had a cool trench coat. It's like gotta have a trench coat, even though it may not be weather appropriate. It's like he looks cool, so you gotta.
I was flipping through it before we started, and I'm like, I'm seeing like Wolverine combined with Judge Dredd combined with
Yeah,
Trencher.
totally.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I always like that look of the kind of a lot of comics, but I associate it with Marvel. But like the the look of like communicating that something is shiny metal.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I just love that look, and your character's costume's got a bunch of shiny metal on it. I've not attempted a shiny metal anything yet, so maybe I should maybe I should go for it.
Something. Yeah, it's a good goal to have. Like I definitely spent a good chunk of high school studying Jim Lee and Arthur Adams' shiny metal instead of like algebra, for instance. But I think it's important.
Yeah, I mean it's the perfect way to communicate it. It really sells it. It looks good.
Yeah.
I'm just in the past couple of years getting into the superhero side of things, and like for the longest time I was like a stuck up dork about it, and like being like, oh, I don't think I like those comics. I like these cool, arty, fancy comics.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
man, I started being like, well, I can't be like an ignorant idiot. I got to go back, and I started reading all Spider-Man, Ditko, and X-Men from the start, all the the legends, and I'm like, okay, now I understand why this is like so seductive to people. Like it's super entertaining. I read the entire Frank Miller Daredevil run in like 2 days.
Yeah.
Just
once you get into it, it just
I was telling a friend, it's like it's what every Netflix show is trying to do to you, of like leaving you with that cliffhanger. So you're like, oh, I gotta binge it. I gotta watch every episode like that. He nailed that thing of like you, especially now, like you can get the Marvel Unlimited app and like sit there and just go through all of them. He nailed that thing of like, I have to see what comes next. It's pretty impressive. I actually there's a documentary on Frank Miller. It just I went to I think it was the New York premiere or something.
Ooh.
And he was there. He was getting interviewed by Neil Gaiman, and
nice. I saw a photo from that. I think
it was pretty cool. I feel like there were a bunch of comic people there. I don't know people's faces, and I was like bummed. I'm like, I bet there's something cool I should have talked to there. But it was a pretty good documentary. I'm assuming it'll be on streaming fairly soon. It's definitely worth watching.
Cool. Yeah, I hope so. Is it kind of a whole career retrospective?
Exactly. It literally it like hits every single thing he worked on. You get a lot of good insight from people who worked with him and stuff like that. Cool. It's pretty interesting for sure. But I'm doing a lot of talking.
So just
what's up?
Well, no, I mean this is the good stuff. Like huge influence, like Frank Miller, especially the Daredevil stuff, and like the monthly Daredevil stuff, and then like leading up to Born Again with Mazzucchelli, like so amazing.
Yeah, I gotta. That's on my to read. I just flipped through Batman Year One, and I was like, I don't know Mazzucchelli's art that well, and I'm like, oh my god, this like looks awesome. Like his art is very badass. Yeah. I'm doing the whole Frank Miller thing now. I just finished Dark Knight Returns, and I grabbed Volume 1 of Sin City, and I'm doing catch up, but I'm getting there.
Nice. Yeah, I envy your point of view there, because it's like the
Fresh.
First time reading that stuff is so powerful.
It is impressive. It is eye opening for sure. Yeah, I have a lot of stuff I need to just go back, and I'm one of those people who gets like hyper focused on like a niche and like just sticks with it forever. And now it's like I've read so much, Akira Toriyama. I've read so much Karl Barks. I've read, what else? I'm now getting into Tsuge, who's like a Garo guy. Like I know a bunch of and Junji Ito is another one I got obsessed with and just buying everything. But now I'm like, I got to see what my American brethren have been up to. Like all the stuff I'm missing that I know is great because everyone agrees it's great. I just haven't gotten to, and now I'm going in that direction, and I'm like, okay, this is sick. I'm into this.
That's awesome. I'm kind of the flip side where growing up I read all that stuff, and then later on I got over myself and started reading the cartoony stuff.
Yeah.
And then now I prefer that stuff almost,
Yeah.
but like later on getting into the Karl Barks, like the
Yeah.
big black and white collections, and like I always enjoyed that stuff, but like the full all encompassing Calvin and Hobbes collection, it's like a friend of mine says that's the best comic book created ever, is like the complete Calvin and Hobbes. And it's hard to argue with that. It's like
the writing's pretty incredible.
Yeah.
I mean, the art's great too, obviously, and the watercolor's beautiful, but just it's consistently not only funny, but like kind of profound, like very philosophical and like
right. Yeah,
interesting
real poignant moments.
Like the last comic, the last Calvin and Hobbes, like just the way it kind of makes you feel wistful and sad it's over, but like, it's a good feeling and a sad feeling at the same time. He's very talented guy, that guy.
Yep.
Is it Watterson? Is that his last name? Bill Watterson?
Bill Watterson.
Yeah. I read an article that he was, after he quit, he took up painting seriously.
Oh yeah.
But he like believes that like your first 10,000, there's some guy who says your first 10,000 works are garbage, and so apparently he was burning every single one of his watercolor paintings. And I'm like, I can only imagine how obviously great they are, you know. And this guy's like, not good enough, can't see the light of day. Boy, maybe that's just an apocryphal story, but I could see it.
But yeah, it's like you start to believe it. It's like somebody like that just stops appearing in public, and like it's easy to make up legends and apocryphal stories about like, man, he's just creating like maybe I actually made a comic about a similar kind of an artist who retired and then worked on like or like the idea was that Bill Watterson type retires and then works on like trying to make a serious graphic novel, and then like keeps trying to rewriting and like tearing it up, and like nobody gets to see it. It's like, man, what if like at some point he releases a brand new book out of nowhere and it's just this weird dark graphic novel? And then last year him and John Cast released this weird book.
Like, did you read it? I haven't checked it out.
Yeah, it's a quick read, but it's really bizarre and really cool. Like,
that's
you
cool.
can't tell which artist did what exactly. There's a lot of sculpture, like photograph, and really just bizarre imagery, almost poetic writing, and it's really unique and cool. But like, if you show that to me without his name on it, you would never guess that he had anything to do with it. But
that's interesting. That's cool that he's experimental like that.
Yeah,
like that. Yeah. I respect that and appreciate it. That's interesting. Yeah, I saw that came across my news feeds, and I was like, oh, interesting. And even the color was like, or the cover, like the art was like, oh, this is something else. This is interesting. I kind of forgot about it till you just mentioned it. I should check it out.
Worth checking out, but it's not what anybody was expecting. A lot of people didn't know what to do with it, but I think it's pretty awesome.
That is cool. Hello, I'm Micah, creator of Extremely Live. If you're enjoying what you're watching, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with a friend. Please, that would be amazing. Extremely Live is a podcast and a live stream that is value for value. If you're getting value out of what we're making, we ask that you send us some value in return by going to extremely.live/donate. We'll take anything. We appreciate everything. And with that, let's get back to the video. So I'm really curious about the caricature side of things. I've never talked to a caricature artist.
Lucky.
What Lucky? Is that what you said?
No, just kidding. I mean, it's there's a lot of overlap between caricature and comics and animation. It's like there's a Venn diagram where caricature is part of any one of those. And I was really lucky when I started off. I got to be trained by this guy, Tom Richmond, who
Ooh.
did a lot of stuff for Mad Magazine. This is his newest book. That's like basically Mad stopped doing the movie parodies
Right.
and became mostly reprint material. So him and Des Devlin, another the writers that he I think collaborated with the most, did a whole book's worth of their own parodies of movies that Mad never covered. So
That's cool. It's called Slap Trap for the
Clap,
listeners.
Claptrap,
Yeah. Oh, Claptrap. I'm sorry.
yeah,
Claptrap.
very
Uh,
creative logo.
yeah,
But yeah, man,
he is probably one of the bigger caricature type guys. Now that I'm thinking about it, like
totally.
everybody has seen that guy's art. I feel
Yeah,
like. So you
yeah,
studied under him, you said?
so yeah, studied under him when he first was getting into Mad. Uh, he would work on pages at the booth. It was a Six Flags here in the Midwest, and he would bring pages into work during the slow times. Like he's a workhorse. He's always drawing something, and not for fun. It's like he's always working on something to an end, you know. And
Wow.
he's a guy that every person he draws, he captures a likeness. It may not be like everybody draws good and bad if you're just drawing nonstop all the time, and you know maybe try to redraw it. But I've never seen him miss a likeness, and it's like really gets the structure. So his mad art of caricature kind of puts into book form all the stuff he taught us back in the day as young budding artists who over time came to appreciate his incredible, tutelage. And another guy, Ed Steckley, who's doing some awesome illustrated books himself currently, was kind of his right hand man at the time. Still good friends with both. Like now he's catch up. Now we catch up professionally on the Comic Con circuits. But super lucky to be able to train with both of them early
Where
on.
was this? I'm curious.
This is like 96.
Is it like at a art school?
This is just at the caricature stand. So Tom opened up
Oh,
the caricature booth at the Six Flags down here.
okay.
And
This is wild.
yeah, it's before his Mad days though. So like at the time he was just an awesome artist running,
Right.
running some caricature booths and building up his illustration chops. So we got to train under him, and we do a really bad drawing, show it to him, he'd correct it and tell us to go do it again. We'd go redo it, bring it back, he'd correct it again.
This
Like
is fascinating to me. How did this come about? Did he advertise some class, or did you just walk up to him
it
and like, I
wasn't a
want to
class. It
learn?
was so we were working as live caricature artists at the Six Flags booth.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, sorry I left out that part, but we were working as live retail caricature artists doing airbrush live drawings of people, and
Is this after you got out of art school or
this was just out of high school.
out of high school? Okay.
So like late 90s.
Did you stick
just
to it? You said, screw college, I'm not doing it?
At first, yeah, because like you get a
Okay.
job right out of high school making decent money, you're like, I don't need art school. I'm
Yeah,
an artist.
totally.
I just
Honestly,
yeah.
that's a good life lesson. Like you don't necessarily need
Yeah. I
need
I
that.
enjoyed. I ended up going back to art school, and found a lot of great things about it. But you don't need it.
Yeah.
It's you can
Uh,
find mentors all over the place, especially nowadays. Like YouTube, it's like you can find great tutorials and stuff.
yes.
But Tom, I started there as like super rough caricature artist, but thankfully I had some of those photocopied Xerox comics that I made in high school, and that's really what I think got me the job. It's like these show some promise at least. So the
Yeah.
caricatures are garbage, but we see a little bit of hope in these comic samples. So, but then it was like me coming in with my hardcore Frank Miller, Todd McFarlane wannabe comic samples, and then being reintroduced to the whole Mad stable of like they had copies of Mad magazines. They got Jack Davis, Mort Drucker. Like man, so I came to reappreciate those guys, and then went back to the Smithsonian book where it's Wally Wood doing Super Duper Man, and then that led me to Don Simpson's Megaton Man
Yeah.
and the Tick. All those great early. They're right from the lineage of, Wally Wood's Super Duper Man. You can kind of trace each of those along the lines, but so I really came to appreciate the cartoony approach again, and then started to kind of fuse those two. So yeah,
That's
so
cool.
then it's like that became my day job, and I've been involved in caricature in one way or another ever since.
That's awesome. Just a tangent. You're talking about appreciating the kind of more realistic kind of action focused comic, and then incorporating more cartooning. That's one of the things I do like about Japanese comics is they do that a lot, where like even a character will be drawn realistically and kind of badass in one frame, and then like something goofy happens, and then they have like a totally cartoon reaction.
Right.
I love that, and I think it's a good thing to like steal. Like it, like
Totally.
yeah, it's very fun. Like, and it reminds you that this is a comic. You can do these things. Like, it's not a movie. You don't need to draw them hyper realistic each frame. You know, like you can communicate that something's goofy by literally drawing them goofy in one frame.
Yeah.
I love that.
Totally. Toriyama does that to great effect.
Totally.
Any other artists you can think of that
I feel like a lot of them do that. Like, if they're like kind of on a goofier side of things, you know, they'll like I don't know. For some reason in my mind I'm picturing like a girl crying because something goofy happened, and then they just go total chibi cartoon mode, you know?
Yeah. Some of the like One Punch Man manga.
Yeah, that's a good example too. Yeah, it's just a good tool, and I think it's enjoyable it's an enjoyable thing to run into in a comic, I think. That's cool. Go ahead.
One early comic that just popped in my head so when we started working at Six Flags doing the caricature stuff, there's a few like, oh, you should check out this one. This would be a good influence. A lot of it was, Mad Magazine and Cracked, Bill Ray doing awesome paintings on the back covers of Cracked. And Tom was trying to get into Mad, but wasn't quite ready. So he was able to get into Cracked first, to kind of hone his chops. But Instant Piano, have you ever seen that one?
No. Instant Piano.
It's there's only 4 issues. It was never collected. I think maybe Dark Horse, but it's Kyle Baker, Evan Dorkin, Steven DeStefano, Robbie Bush, and Mark Badger, I think. And it's just a bunch of short gag comics mostly, and like it's fucking classic. Like it's basically what Mad should have evolved into.
Oh, interesting.
In the 90s, like by then it was a different animal, but like I love the original like Mad comics when it was like still a comic book, the first 12 or 20 issues or whatever.
Totally.
But man, like reading your book, I think you would enjoy Instant Piano.
I'll check it out for sure. Yeah, I'm working on the next one now, and I'm like, I want to lean. I'm always nervous about coming off as an edgelord, just because like we have plenty of edgelords in the world.
Sure. So
like, I'm trying to hone my voice, and I'm hoping that at the end of each one, people will be in a better mood than when they started, rather than feeling attacked or annoyed or anything like that. But yeah, I'm working on the next one right now, and I'm excited about it. I appreciate you grabbing a copy. Yeah, I don't know. I'm just thinking about my own work now. But
I think you would appreciate Instant Piano. But I feel like you handle that self-awareness of the kind of material you're doing, like the funny disclaimer in the beginning.
Right.
Like the character coming back in the middle to kind of like, okay, let's
reset.
Take a breather.
My wife's grandfather got super excited that I was making a comic. He's like, "Oh, I want a copy. I want a copy." And I'm like, "Oh, I can't give this guy a copy of this thing.
Right.
I can't do it." And he had like a health issue the other day, and we went to go visit him, and I was like, "Well," he kept bringing it up. He's like, "Oh, I think it's so cool you're doing that." I'm like, "All right, I got to give this guy a copy."
Yeah.
And he's like, he works in the military and retired, but like he was big up in the military, and like I have like a sort of an anti-military industrial complex.
Sure.
Not necessarily military, but still, it's
Yeah.
like I don't know how that's going to be received. But I'll like bite the bullet. I'll just give him a copy. And I literally was like, "This is my version of Mad Magazine. Don't take it anything too seriously.
Yeah.
Here's your copy." And thankfully, he called me. He's like, "Oh man, so much detail. It must have took you forever." Like just
Nice.
like not positive about it. So I'm like, "Oh,
Yeah,
very
right.
good. All right, he gets it. He's not upset." Again, that thing of like liking to sort of play with being naughty or whatever, but not to a point where I'm like, I don't want to feel like anything's a middle finger to anybody. You know what I mean? Like, because there's plenty of that on social media. I just like to make fun of things is where I come from, which is kind of the spirit of caricature, I would say.
Yeah,
in that
exactly.
it's meant to be fun and funny by like kind of goofing on the person, but like in a playful way that hopefully doesn't cross the line again into a middle finger.
Yeah, right. Which is sometimes appropriate, but yeah, I think for the most part, you're just having fun with it. It's not a personal jab, it's making light, having fun with. Because like as
Exactly.
caricature artists, we all get together. I go whenever I can, but there's a huge caricature convention each year.
Oh, cool.
And it's not open to the public. It's just a bunch of caricature artists getting together, blowing off steam from having to draw, the public, and drawing each other as crazy as they possibly can for the most part. And like, it is just for fun. It's just like see how much you can stretch that rubber band of the likeness without it breaking. Like
Yeah.
it goes crazy as possible to the edge, but still retain a likeness and hopefully have a gag or. So
That's
it's
great.
like,
I would love to see. I love the idea of a convention for the artists only. Like,
yeah.
I wonder if there's something like that, and there must be in like comic books. I would assume, right? There's got to be something.
I mean, there
There's
may
no
be.
like get together of sharing of like information or anything. Like that's a useful thing. Like,
I know there's like retailer summits, and there's some kind of art groups that are a little more like rarefied air, like the
yeah.
lakes or Lake Como. There's something in Italy. There's a few festivals over there that
Oh,
are like a
interesting.
little bit more like invite only,
Yeah.
more for collectors, I guess, and they're more artist centric.
Does it bum you out that like America invented comic books and we're the country that takes it the least serious and like shits on it the most? Like
Isn't that crazy?
why is that?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah, I don't
like
know. It's,
France and Italy and Japan and like it's venerated. They love it. Like
Right.
it's highly respected. But like
Yeah.
we literally invented it and we're like, shit, who cares?
Yeah, right.
Like what is
Embarrassed about
that?
it, like, oh, that crap. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like it's bizarre to me.
Yeah.
Um,
Sad, but
Yeah,
yeah,
it's
it's
weird. Something like that would be awesome. I just love the idea of people coming together to share ideas and not to sell anything and not to show to regular people. It's to like better
Yeah.
yourself as a creative.
totally.
That
I
kind
think
of thing is useful.
certain shows strive for that mentality, like the IC3 Independent Creators Convention. I think kind of nailed that. Like, it's still in a perfect size to be able to do that. To get it
Yeah.
all just like, were you there the first night, like the drink and draw?
No, I totally missed it, and I'm not going to make that mistake again. I actually didn't hear about it until afterwards, which bummed me out because I probably would have gone.
Yeah,
But yeah, I'm going to be trying to stay on top of it this time because I do want to like, I want the opportunity to actually sit in and meet people and talk. Like
Yeah.
I did it a little bit while I was walking around, like
Right.
introducing myself, like, oh, I think what you're drawing's cool, but again, it's like that you're like taking up their time while they're trying to sell something. So it's not the same experience of like sitting down and meeting somebody.
yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah. I heard that was a fun time.
It was good. Yeah, not to rub it in, but man, it
No,
was
no,
amazing.
go for it.
But it's like that is that kind of symposia atmosphere where it's artists drawing. I got to sit at a table for a while with Tony McMillan and Jesse Lonergan, and like we're all drawing in our sketchbooks, and especially between the three of us, but between the two of them, they drew probably a whole comic's worth of sketches that night. But
That's cool.
it's like you're just riffing on each other's stuff and flipping through each other's sketchbooks and like getting an idea or like getting inspiration. And
Yeah.
like Jesse Lanigan in particular is such a great mind for layouts and storytelling.
Mm.
And looking through his sketchbook, I saw a few of his layouts where he like visually he's putting it together. He's got a whole issue laid out, but there's one design element that kind of goes through the whole issue, or like certain pages that connect in a design sense. It's pretty
That's
profound to
awesome.
see that develop in a sketchbook.
Yeah.
Kind of.
That's what I'm talking about. See, I'm pretty new to this thing. Like I've made my first serious comic. Like you, I
Yeah,
did zines and stuff and like, shared them with my friends, but like it's the first thing I've been like pretty serious about, and IC3 was my first show. So I have a lot to learn, and it sounds like there are these get-togethers. I just gotta
yeah.
stay
Where are
on
you
top of
based?
things.
Where
What's
are you
that?
based out?
I'm in New York. I'm in Queens.
Okay.
Yeah.
You'd call me crazy, but there might be some other artists in the area that you could get together with.
That's what I've been asking around about, and if there isn't something, I'm going to start something. Basically, is what
Yeah,
I've
yeah.
come to the
Well, there's the
conclusion.
National Cartoonist Society.
Yeah.
Have you heard about those guys?
Yes.
I
Yes.
know they've got at least a New York chapter, but they do monthly get-togethers, and they're great for um, networking.
Mm.
But also, each time they meet up, they usually have somebody who maybe isn't a member to come and like talk to the group. Like we had Mimi Pond come and talk to us at one of our meetings. When I was living in LA for a while, like that was a great chapter, and they
Mm.
would have guest artists come and talk. So it's uh, it's great for networking and just talking shop with other cartoonists. I would definitely look up, the National Cartoonist Society out
That's
there,
good.
and because yeah, nothing beats, especially if you're not doing cartooning in your day job. It's like you're building up this energy, and it's like only other cartoonists really understand. So it's like you get together once a week or once a month. There's a good group here in St. Louis. So there's a lot of drinking draws, and in St. Louis it's ink and drink, and it's surprisingly well organized. Like they put together books like anthologies, usually themed. Um, they used to be twice a year. Now it's maybe once a year, but it's still consistently. Everybody contributes some short stories. We get together once a month and just talk comics, maybe do some drawing. So, but caricature artists, especially, whenever they hang out, it's nonstop drawing for the most part. So it's nice to find groups like that of people that don't think it's weird to just hang out and draw together.
Yeah, for sure. Just real quick, I saw your dog pop his paws
Yeah,
up. That was hysterical.
he's in the
Aw.
zone.
Yeah, he's conked
That's Lo-
right up.
Lola. Yeah,
Um,
my office assistant.
that's great. So, are I would assume you have, beyond the people you've mentioned already, that do you have like caricature artists you're a fan of that you pull from, or that you like the
Yeah,
same way you would have like comic, like you rattled off like a bunch of examples of like comic book people, or is caricature more of like, is it less of like a drawing from other people and more like a set of rules that you follow to make it work? Or
there's certainly like if you're at all interested, I recommend Tom's Mad Art of Caricature because it just lays down such a solid foundation of how to draw caricatures and maintain a likeness. But you take that foundation and then you put it through your own filter of however you want to draw.
right.
There's some pushback. Some people are like, oh, I don't want to draw like that guy. I want to draw like me. But it's like you take the solid foundational like of any kind of drawings. If you're trying to draw something representational, like you need to know why it looks the way it does, like
Mm-hmm.
what makes it work and what makes it look a certain way. So to retain the likeness of whether it's a weird looking chair or a building, person or a dog, it's like you need to understand the fundamentals. But once you get that, then you can squash and stretch and make it look bizarre, but still maintain the essence of what it is originally. So Yeah. So long story short, there is a ton of amazing caricature artists. Um, and I mentioned earlier that I went back to school. I recently put together like a sketchbook collection. So that's a self caricature of, but C.F. Payne was like a huge mentor. Here's a caricature of him.
Oh, cool.
But he's like a Hall of Fame illustrator and caricature artist. Time Magazine uh, does amazing, a lot of baseball studies. Like his, here's a favorite, but
That's
that's
good.
the textured look is taken right out of a CF Payne technique. But Dale Stefanos, just passed him. But yeah, so this program has a ton of, yeah, here we go. The character, awesome illustrator, caricature artist.
Nice.
There's a ton of amazing. Jason Seiler is a great one currently, like who kind of came up through the International Society of Caricature Artists, would come to those annual conventions. So like you've got beginner artists, novice artists of these conventions, and you've got master artists of like Seiler or C.F. Payne's level intermingling in the same room and
That's
learning
cool.
from each other, and it's amazing. So IC3 kind of had that on a comic level. You got Eric Talbot, you got all these great artists, and then a good handful of new artists, all mingling and mixing together. It's like you say, it's like learning from each other. So the before the show and after the show kind of drink and draws were great to really kind of relax and unwind and touch base on those levels, like and draw next to somebody that you're a fan of, and try to like when you mentioned going to the Frank Miller screening, I bet the room was full of people like that.
Gotta
It
be.
may be better that you didn't recognize them because you probably would be more self-conscious, But
Yeah.
uh, but some of these
Starstruck.
shows, yeah, exactly. So I get more starstruck by artists I'm a fan of than actual celebrities.
Yeah. I feel that. Um, that's cool. I like that there's a world out there I'm not aware of and I can dive into.
Yeah.
I was looking at your illustrations on your site, and I don't really know what my question is, but I was just thinking of like the portraits you're doing in like illustration mode. Like you're sitting down, you can plan it, you have time, you're not rushing. Versus a live caricature of like a person, not necessarily a famous person, but like it's you're flexing the same muscles, but like you
Yeah.
got to get that thing done and handed to them. What is the is there anything between those two that stand out to you? Is something you'd like to talk about?
In some ways, it's easier to do the live version because you can have them turn any way they need to.
Oh.
You're talking to them and you're asking them questions basically to get them to make a certain expression so you can see how their face moves a certain way. But like
Oh, interesting.
things to latch on in either way is the feeling of the person. So with a celebrity or like a editorial illustration, you want to represent that person in a way that the public will think it looks like that person. So you go for certain aspects of their outfit, maybe like if you're drawing Prince or something, like it's or Lady Gaga, like Johnny Cash. It's like there's certain elements to their personality that are really iconic.
Yeah.
But like if you're drawing somebody live, you only have that moment. You've never met them before, so you try to pull elements of who that person is. But the thing that I found is to concentrate on their expression. If you can draw the expression, you can push and pull that and still have it look like the person. Whereas if you just draw a straight portrait of the nose and it looks kind of like their nose, but they're just stone faced, like it's easier to screw it up. But
Yeah.
if you're like drawing the expression, you can shrink the top of the head and really bring out the smile. Like if you nail how they smile.
Right.
But it's really all about the shapes and how they interact
That's
with each
interesting.
other.
Yeah. Have you ever had anybody get upset at a drawing, or is it
Only
like, go ahead, go ahead.
it does happen. Certainly happened a lot more when I first started. That's
Yeah,
a ton.
because again, it's like playing with that line of
Yeah,
like, I'm making a joke and it's quote unquote at your expense, but
yeah,
hopefully you think it's funny too.
right. Oddly enough, I found that like early on, I was drawing more portraity. I was too nervous to stretch much, and I got people more upset during that time because like
Oh, because they're
if
like, it's
it's
not.
if you're going for portraity and it's off, then they're like, "What?" And like, "How dare you, sir?" But if it's like just goofy and funny, and it still kind of looks like him, most people are like, "Oh yeah, it's a cartoon. Like it's supposed
Right.
to be goofy." But if it's basically portrait, but you give them big ears, they're like livid. So,
That's so
and
funny.
I've had friends that are amazing at accurately, you know, drawing somebody, and they stretch it a little bit, and that's when they get the biggest, uh, upset customers. But for the most part, people are more sophisticated now. Like, you know, some friends that I am a big fan of, uh, Ninja Sketch she's in Hawaii now, and like blowing up on Instagram and TikTok. I've got a handful of friends that are like you're getting huge views. So like people just have an idea of what like, oh yeah, I've seen some crazy caricatures on TikTok. So they're less inclined to be upset at your regular caricature, or even if you push it, like they know what they're getting into because they've seen it. So,
Right.
but like back in the days at Six Flags, people are like, "What do you do here? Like we draw you, you draw us." Like, and they may not know exactly, or they haven't seen as like Mad Magazine used to be kind of everybody's go-to, but now kids don't even know about Mad Magazine.
Yeah.
So it's so it totally varies, but and it's rare, but it does happen.
That's funny. One of the hazards of the job, I guess.
Yeah, but it also makes it fun. It's like being a stand-up comedian. Like there's gonna be a heckler at
Yeah.
some point. You just have to be ready for it.
That's so. I don't know why that's so funny to me. Of like just a rube getting pissed at you.
Yeah, yeah.
It's just it's very
It's
funny.
often on some of the best drawings too. Like you
Yeah.
do a drawing that you're like almost embarrassed to show them, and they're like, "Oh, that's the best thing I've ever seen." And you do another one, you think, "Man, this is the best drawing I've done all week." I'm like putting extra zhuzh into it, and then you flip around, you show them, and they're like, "Nope, what the hell is that?" So
That's great. Um. So yeah, you talked about education early on. You were like, I want to just want to do it. I want to draw, and that paid off for you. You got a gig immediately. And now I saw that you just got your master's. That's quite the switch. What made you decide to go back and hit up the old hit the books, as they say?
yeah, it was twofold. It was a chance to study with the aforementioned CF Payne, among a few other awesome artists that are connected with the program, um, and also to teach. So, like,
Ah,
I'm looking into doing more teaching. I'm, working on that upcoming workshop with Kelly Light. Both excited about that, and then I would love to teach full time at some point. So it's kind of going down that road. It's like I've been a traveling caricature artist, cartoonist, going to Comic Cons and going to festivals and whatnot all over the world, which is amazing and fun. And going to like IC3, it's a blast. You love it. But being on the road
yeah,
throughout the whole year starts to take its toll. And you're like, I
yeah.
told somebody recently that like I've been an outdoor cat for years and years, and I'm realizing I got a taste of what it's like to be an indoor cat. So I think I'm gonna. That's kind of nice.
Yeah.
Air conditioning.
Yeah, travel is it's fun, but it is tiring. Like it can be exhausting to just be on the move all the time.
Totally. Yeah.
That I completely understand. In fact, part of me is like I've only applied to stuff, conventions that are fairly close by. I
Mm-hmm.
can't imagine like going across the entire U.S. or into a different country for shows. I'm gonna have to. I mean, if I'm so lucky as to like run into that eventually, I have to figure that whole thing out of just
Yeah.
like packing all your stuff and like the cost of moving things around is insane.
Yeah. You
Like
got to
we
get
went on a
getting
trip.
real creative with how to
Yeah,
pack, how to ship stuff. Yeah.
dude, we went on a what was it Spirit flight the other day,
Oh, I'm
and
sorry.
the dude, the like free piece of luggage you're allowed.
Yeah.
It's basically like might as well be like it's like the size of like a Game Boy now.
Right.
Like everything is like, oh sorry, that's another $100 for
Right,
like
right.
a normal human's suitcase.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
insane.
The ticket is cheap,
Yeah.
but it's funny how much they hit you for. It's like, oh, do you need to use the restroom? How many times?
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
$25. Oh, number two? Yeah, sorry, that's 75.
We're giving away free restroom tokens on the
Yeah.
flight. Like it's like, what is this?
Are you wearing a
Yeah.
hat with a brim? Yeah, that's $40.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Travel is a bit much sometimes. That's for
Great.
sure.
Have you done any more shows since IC3?
I did.
more
I
coming
did. I did the St. Mark's Comics show here in New York, which was cool. That was outdoors, which was a little hairy, a little scary, but it was a good show. People were down to have fun.
Nice.
And then I did one other. What else did I do? I did one other that's slipping my mind. I apologize to the kind people who let me do it. I just can't remember. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I'm really good at remembering names when I'm not doing a podcast.
Yeah,
But-
I believe me, I know exactly what you're talking about. It's bad. It's unprofessional, but it's a thing I suffer from terribly. My wife is always yelling at me for how forgetful I am. Yeah, but I've done like 3 shows now, gotten more used to it. And now I'm like, I just got to get back on the making stuff horse, make the next thing. You know, like it's fun to have a completed product and then be able to share it with everybody. But it's like, can't stop there. If you're doing this thing, you got to do the, you got to, what have you done for me lately, as they say?
Yeah, where's the new thing? I got that thing. Where's the new
Literally, like all my friends, like within like 3 days of finishing the thing, I'm like, I don't want to hear this right now.
Right.
This was like rolling a boulder uphill for 6
Right,
months. This is intense.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's cool. This is interesting. I've never delved into the caricature world, and sounds like you are well versed and successful in it, which is cool. I want to talk a little bit about this cartooning class you're doing. So for those who don't know, I recently interviewed Kelly Light, and
Great interview, by the way.
oh, thanks. Yeah, she's super inspiring.
Yeah.
Her story's pretty wild.
Yeah.
I was floored by that whole thing with her postcard story.
Yeah.
Like that's
It's such a great image too. Like,
yeah, it is great. I mean, you immediately understand why. Like I kept complimenting her on it because it's true. It's just like it's like a living being. Like you're seeing a snapshot of a living being, which is insane. But yeah, you and Kelly are putting together a class for people who want to get better at cartooning. It's called Cartoon Everything.
Yeah. So basically the idea and the title stems from you're cartooning a character, you're also cartooning the chair, you're cartooning, the world. So we're trying to help people do that in their style, in a consistent way. So like I mentioned Jack Davis earlier, classic Mad Magazine artist. If I showed you a drawing of a tennis racket by Jack Davis, you'd be like, oh, that's a Jack Davis tennis racket. It's like, it's almost like a handwriting signature. Like you recognize an artist's style and how they draw everything. So caricature artists in particular, it's kind of an archetype that cliche that we can draw faces like nobody's business because we've drawn thousands of them, literally. But you look at anything else drawn by a caricature artist, and it doesn't hold up to the same, level. So that's something. That's another reason I wanted to go back to school or just study more, is to kind of get my art to be as well rounded as possible.
Yeah.
You still are not going to see a ton of big city shots in my comics, or horses racing motorcycles on helicopters, like with bicycles. It's like all those things are annoying to draw, but you have to learn how to draw them at least in the first place, and then choose whether you want to include them in your story. But if you do draw them, it has to be your cartooned bicycle, your horse, like Chuck Jones's horse from the the Bugs Bunny classic operatic cartoon.
Totally.
You see that in just a still, and you instantly know it's the Chuck Jones horse.
Yeah, it's true. You see it in video games a lot, like when like people, like the characters have a very distinct look, and then the levels they're in like don't fit at all. Like
right.
It's like they just downloaded an asset pack of like buildings, and then they just put it together.
Yep.
Like if your world needs to match your character, like you're building the rules of what your character looks like. That also applies, like you say, to the chairs, to the trees, to the animals. And then if you master that, you've created like a cohesive world that's fun to be in.
Yeah.
That's cool. That sounds like an awesome class.
Yeah, so I'm really excited about it. It'll be at the Highlights Foundation from Highlights magazines. We've all thumbed through one of those at the dentist office or whatever.
Oh yeah.
But and Kelly's so great at that. If you see her books or her art, it's like instantly you can tell it's her style. It all looks like it's from that world. The characters match up. Like, yeah, so many, and a lot of animated movies nowadays, they may look amazing and have some funny characters, but they don't even all look like they're in the same movie. Like you get multiple character designers, or you get one main character designer, but then clearly somebody else came in and designed all these side characters. Like, it's crazy.
Go ahead.
I think did a good job. Do you ever see Castle Crashers?
Castle Crashers. I do know. Is that a game?
Yeah.
I feel like yes. I feel like I definitely have, and I'm trying to place it. But what about
cool,
it?
And I think it was designed by one guy, like who I think it's an independent game.
I'm gonna Google it while we're talking.
It's really cool, really cartoony, but so fun looking. But it looks like this one cartoonist made some drawings and then they animated that for the game. So
right.
Or like Cuphead does a good job.
Yeah.
Like that 1930s rubber hose animation style.
Totally.
I've seen that played. I've never played it because it fucking looks impossible.
It's hard,
but it looks incredible.
Yeah, that whole style of that whole game is great. Yeah, I'm convinced. I'm just gonna say this. I keep putting it out in the world because I think the universe needs to snap this up. I'm dying to see more of a collaboration between indie game makers and indie comic makers.
Oh yeah, man.
You know what I mean? Like, why is that? Why is there not like, a hit indie game? What's that one that everyone talks about? It's like a roguelite. Oh, it's gonna escape me now, but whatever. Name any game. A Cuphead is a great example. Why isn't there a companion like Cuphead comic that like
there is actually?
Okay,
that mention it.
Thank you.
And it's amazing.
That's what I'm saying.
Sean Dickinson, I think, who draws in that like. I recommend. I think there's 2 volumes. And that's a perfect example, but why aren't there more of that? Because
exactly,
it's such a perfect combination, and why don't more people know that there's a comic? Because if they love that game or just cool comics, they would love that book.
Yeah, I was talking to Tony McMillan, and his Attaboy. It's like it's a you got it there. It's the concept is that it's a manual, video game manual. I actually looked up the dimensions of Game Boy instruction booklet pamphlets because I just love the idea of doing something like those instruction pamphlets where I loved those things when I was a little kid. Like they all have like cool original art in them. They're more than just instruction booklets, and I don't know. There we go. Oh wow, you got the big original. That's awesome. He was telling me the first run was like a huge size. That's great.
Yeah, I got the new one just for completist sake. But
of course,
you gotta love the gigantic.
That's hell yeah. That's what I told him. His 2-page spreads in that are awesome.
Oh yeah, man.
He's got such a cool style, man.
Yep. Seeing that on a grand scale really allows the art to sing,
to breathe. Yeah. Well, this has been fun. Is there anything we haven't hit that you'd like to mention, or anything I forgot to ask that you're dying to talk about?
I always want to shout out Ghost Agents.
Ooh, what is this? One of your books?
This is a book that a lot of the IC3 artists participate in. It's through Cosmic Lion Productions as well.
Cool.
They have a pretty cool logo.
It does look pretty awesome.
But I've got my Turbo Hawks.
Hell yeah.
Working on the 3rd issue feverishly at the moment.
Nice.
How about you, man? You reading any cool books coming up?
what am I reading right now? I just getting back into some
good one.
early. Oh,
Mary
I was
Tyler
yeah, I was I did a podcast with that dude. Not
cool,
with him, but we were both on the same one at the same time. It looked cool.
Nice. Another cool anthology.
Oh, nice.
I participated in recently.
Very cool.
But I love doing these anthologies. Are you getting into any of those?
I've submitted to a few. I haven't nailed any yet. I
think your stuff would be great for that.
Yeah.
Use my
that's awesome.
contribution. These are the classic Big Bang.
Damn,
kind of
color too.
Superhero. Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool.
But Mike Fitzgerald put that together.
That's awesome.
But there's so many great. A good one.
Arc of Vagrant KP.
Yeah.
Very nice.
There's so many great anthologies, though. I feel like your stuff would be great, even if you do like a 1-page.
Totally.
Do a fun.
Yeah.
Fun little.
I'm still new. I gotta kind of meet these people. I think I'm sure it's similar to everything else. It's if I don't know you, I don't know you anything. You know what I mean? Whereas, not in a mean way, but it's like you got a million friends
coming
exactly.
Like, hey, how about this?
And it's like you want to hook up your pals first for stuff. Yeah. So I really am just getting to know people. So I'm hoping down the line I'll be able to do some more stuff anthology wise, but. Yeah. That is the one cool thing about comics is if you want it to exist, you just make it yourself, and who knows how many people will want it, but you never know if you don't try it,
Absolutely, man.
So what's the website? Is it cartooneverything.com?
Cartooneverything.com. Yep.
Your current one is full, but you should go there. If you're interested in getting better as a cartoonist or just as an artist in general, I would go to that website and watch the intro video to get a flavor of Chris and Kelly and see their examples of their work, and you will understand why this thing is worth your time because they're both super good. And I would imagine. You would only get better doing a class like that. I also like that it's like you're living and breathing it for like several days. Like you stay there, like it's like a retreat, which is pretty
exactly.
badass.
Yeah, everybody gets their own cabin. We're all doing our class together in the daytime, but then doing our own drink and draw sketch parties at night. It's just and then watching cartoons in the morning. It's just.
This is going to be fun.
Breathing, cartooning.
This is when is this? August 1st? Is that what it is?
It's
Or
August 11th through 14th.
okay, 11th. Okay.
And if you missed signing up for it, I always recommend Kelly Light's character design class, which she does periodically.
That's
And
cool.
those are Zoom, but still highly recommended.
Yeah.
And
I'm honestly thinking about hitting her up about that, and
yeah, man.
it just seems like she's a good person to learn from. She clearly knows what she's doing.
Yeah, I mean, just from talking to you, like that episode, she's dropping knowledge nuggets nonstop the whole time. So
Seriously, like it was impressive. And you're impressive as well. Not to get distracted here.
thanks, sure.
I
And
I
Brian as well. Brian
oh
Lutz,
Lutz,
that was a
yeah,
great one.
yeah.
I They kept coming back and telling me on the day of at the IC3 show, oh, we saw this cool booth. He's got this Sopranos zine. Like they got
That's
this
in the
little like
mail. You
toy.
should be getting that any day now.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm stoked, man. I appreciate it. But the toy little machine you guys had,
Yeah,
they were
the
excited.
Maslow's the name of the toy company there. They're
Yeah,
awesome. He's my neighbor. We do stuff
nice.
together all the time. Yeah, I that was a fun show. There was a lot of cool. I met a ton of cool people,
Yeah,
which was that's invaluable in itself. I'm excited to do it right next time and hang out with people before and after.
yeah, yeah. You
Um,
got to get that part, but you nailed it with the booth and the booth presentation. So now you just got to do the hanging out part.
yeah, exactly. Arguably the more important part,
Well,
meeting meeting people.
yeah,
Well, cool, man. It was fun talking to you, and it was fun to learn a little bit about how caricature works in the world that it's cool that you had straight out of high school like found this niche and got in there and it turned out was learning from someone who would go on to become pretty big deal and what nationally
yeah,
known. That's pretty badass.
yeah. We were very lucky to get in when we did. So, and that's certainly my whole professional career wouldn't exist without Tom Richmond, Ed Steckley from those early days. Uh, don't tell him I said that, but
Are you? I assume you have plans to eventually do like a caricature specific class you want to do.
yeah, like I guess nowadays I'm trying to fold that into comics. Like I've
Mm,
done a few like workshops and guest lectures for schools where I'm like showing how you can take caricature and bring it into your comics.
yeah,
Take caricature, apply it to your character design because it is related.
yeah.
But caricature itself is certainly worth independent study. So I've got a how to caricature introduction book, and I put the whole thing on my website,
Oh, that's awesome.
meesimo.com. You
Sorry, I
scroll down.
interrupted. Meesimo.com spelled how?
Yeah, Meesey or Meesimo.com.
Cool.
And I've got the whole how to draw caricatures on there. So I'm working on a follow up that's kind of a graphic novel, like somewhat of a ripoff of Understanding Comics for caricatures,
Yeah,
but
that's cool.
it's kind of a comic within a. Just got demos and tutorials within a comic. So
Very
one
cool.
of the 20 projects I'm working on that will hopefully see the light of day.
Yep, I understand that. It's like,
But when you're doing, I know we're wrapping up, but when you're doing other comics shows, are you putting together like at least some new zines for?
yeah, I every show I've done so far, I've added like a zine, like you're saying, at the very least. So after Indie Comics Creator Con, I did this little 8-page zine dedicated to Cheeton. Do you know Cheeton? It's like this
No,
weird little Japanese mascot that's like that just does like jackass style stunts, like just like smashing into stuff and like getting hurt and looking absurd. And I just find it funny. I think it's Chiitan. It's on like Twitter and Instagram or whatever. And I just
nice.
was like, I'm gonna make a little zine of this goofy mascot taking on a sort of a SEAL Team 6 style mission from the from the U.S. government, and put that together. And I'm working on a story right now that I'll probably do as a standalone zine, but then probably fold into the next issue of Orange Flavor as well. But yeah, I'm slowly but surely getting things together here for new stuff.
Cool.
But yeah, it's fun, man. It's very satisfying once you get to that finish line, you know. It's just getting there where you're yelling at yourself the whole time to do it.
Process. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's never, the deadline never coincides with when you think it should be done. It's like it's time to go to print. You know, you gotta keep noodling on it for months, but
it's true.
Finding that balance.
I actually was like, I called my hometown newspaper, and seeing if like they take on independent like jobs or whatever, and they quoted me for a magazine size color cover newsprint interior, black and white. And I was like, man, it would be kind of cool to do like kind of your own Savage sort of Conan kind of, you know what I mean? Like you have your comic and then you have the Savage version of your comic, you know what I mean? And I just love the idea of it being on newsprint. So it's a little pricey, so it's like not terrible, but more than I would just like jump at immediately. So I think what I would do is put together an anthology, and then get a bunch of friends in, and then get it printed up, you know, big magazine size, that we can all kind of hawk our wares that way.
Nice.
I
something about that extra large size that just like
it's cool.
It's so cool. Yeah.
I will say I also appreciate the Viz. Where is it? Here. Like the Tankoban size, because specifically in New York City, it's easy to read on the train. Like really? This is like the perfect size for like, and it's smaller, but it's like it's big enough that at least you can still kind of communicate what you're trying to communicate. You know?
Right.
But yeah, I think about the format a lot too, because like it is interesting. I know we said we were wrapping up 10 minutes ago, but I'm now thinking about other things to talk about. Yeah. It is interesting to me that manga sales are like through the roof, even in America.
Yeah. And a lot of it's funny. A lot of like Scholastic books that are huge hits are kind of similar to that Tankaban size.
Yeah. So I'm like, there's got to be something to like. I think it's maybe not necessarily like the shrunken down size, but maybe like the fact that it's 200 pages. Like you feel like you're getting a lot for your money. Maybe as a little kid, like maybe that's something to do with it. Because floppies, like. I was buying those new Ultimate because like I was telling you, I started getting into the superhero stuff. Mm-hmm. I was like, oh, I should try a modern one. Like it'd be cool to be able to check out a modern one. And so I grabbed the Ultimate X-Men #1, which is Peach Momoko. Which,
cool, yeah.
That's cool. I'm enjoying that, and I'm gonna keep buying it. But I also started the Ultimate Spider-Man #1. And at first I was like, oh, cool. Like, this is cool to be a modern Spider-Man story. Mm-hmm. But as I was reading it, I got to like issue 3, I think. And the whole comic is literally one scene of a TV show. Oh. And it's not only is it just one scene, it's like one scene at a restaurant where they're just drinking wine and talking to each other, 2 couples. And I'm like, that was $5 for one restaurant scene where like the whole thing was just like, I think maybe 3 word bubbles were plot specific. And then the rest were just like, I guess, character flavor or something.
Yeah.
And it kind of, it it made me see why they're not flying off the shelves, is what I will say. At least like those modern ones. And what's cool about the indie
more
stuff,
digestible in a book.
Yes.
If that's the only thing you get that month for $5-6, it's like, really?
Yeah, exactly. And literally that was my feeling. I was like, maybe I'll just wait and check in on this later if people are say it turned out to be good. Peach Momoko, I don't care as much about that kind of thing just because the art's great. Like I like looking at her art. Exactly. Yeah. And also
she did they collected some of her X-Men stuff in a treasury-sized book, which is phenomenal.
Yeah. Yeah, she's very talented. And but also the storytelling feels better in that. It feels like, it feels like you have forward momentum in each issue so far, whereas the Spider-Man thing was like I was confused as to why that was the could easily been one page and then
interesting choice.
Yeah, not to talk shit or anything, but it's interesting to just why are comic sales quote unquote terrible or whatever, and it's like maybe don't spend the money on making everything look like super polished color. Maybe do a smaller format, maybe do black and white, maybe put more in an issue than people are used to normally. Maybe they should experiment at the very least. Experiment, I guess, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. At least mix it up. And I like the old adage of every comic is somebody's first comic. So what if you're only giving it a try on this issue and it's not the most exciting issue, so you may never come back. But at least if you have this restaurant scene, throw something else in there that's gonna grab you.
Exactly. This is a good book I grabbed. It's called what is it? Manga in Theory and Practice: The Craft of Creating Manga by Hirohiko Araki, or however I butchered that there. It's pretty good. It's Shonen Jump style comic specific, but there's a lot you can take from that and for generalized storytelling for sure. It's definitely a book worth checking out. And one of the you were talking about learning how to draw everything and how you're oh god, drawing helicopters or horses or whatever. He's in one of the early chapters, he's he's it's not just drawing cool looking characters. You need to decide how you're going to draw fire, rocks, grass, building. Right. He lays it out, get your stuff together so that when you go to sit down and do it, you're not, scrambling and sweating bullets.
Right.
And there's a bunch of good storytelling stuff in there and a bunch of good art, advice. He's very, very heavily focused on the first page. You got to nail these specific things on the first page to get people to want to flip to the next page.
Makes sense. I wish I would have known that though before I drew my.
I read it and then I made the first page of my next comic, and then after I'm like, did I make a boring first page? And I hope not.
Redo that.
Yeah, exactly. There's
that goes back into cartoon everything.
Yes.
Make it all, draw that fire, draw those rocks
totally
your world,
and do it in a way that is that you like and enjoy doing, and that is cohesive. Cohesion is good. Cool. I feel like we could have a longer discussion about stuff like this, about process and just the generalized creation of art, but I have had my AC off this whole time and I'm dying to turn it back on. So I gotta let you go.
Feel you there, man.
Yeah, but cool, this is super fun. And I appreciate you taking the time to talk with me, and thank you for enlightening me on caricature stuff. And everyone go to cartooneverything.com. Check out the class and go to Meesimo.com, Meesimo.com. Check out some art, buy a book. I'm going to do the meme and pass back a $10 bill back and forth between us and go grab Turbo Hawk after this. Let's get excited and make stuff, people. No one's stopping you from doing it, and there's all kinds of avenues you can go down, and that's the point of talking to people like Meesimo here. There's a lot to learn from a lot of cool people. And
absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, thanks so much, man. I appreciate it, and hope to talk to you again. We can go off on some more tangents. So.
Absolutely.